I will call to order this City Council special meeting, October 20th, 2025. The time is 9 o'clock. Madam Clerk, will you please do a roll call?
Mayor Kidman.
Here.
Vice Mayor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Augie.
Here.
Councillor Hettinger.
Here.
Councillor Preller.
Here.
Councillor Roundtree.
Here.
And Councillor Hammond is excused.
Okay. Welcome to everybody who is here. I hope this turns out to be a very enjoyable presentation run. First item of business, number 3.1, City Manager Candidate Interview Process. Just wanted to briefly verbalize how this will work. There will be presentations presented from 4 of the candidates in a row, followed by our City Council lunch break at approximately 1 o'clock. And then there will be immediately followed by the executive sessions of the individual interviews, 4 in a row, that will be in our council chambers, followed by the meet and greet. For those on the council, this part here with the presentations will have limited question and answer part because we will be doing more of that in our interview process in the executive sessions, but there will be, of course, some interaction and some questions allowed. With that, was there anything else that needed to be added by anybody else? Okay. With that, we will go on to item number 3.2 and welcome our first presenter, Frank. How do you say your last name?
Chiapetti.
Chiapetti. Okay. Frank, we will turn the time over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all. My name is Frank Chiapetti. I hail from Gallup, New Mexico.
Is this sound
born and
working?
raised there, 4th generation.
Wait just a moment. Kane, we have minimal sound at the podium.
Try it now.
Go ahead and say your name again.
Frank Chiapetti.
There we go.
Okay.
Now we can hear
There
you.
we go. Let me try that again. Good morning, all. Yate Beni, for any traditionals. I hail from Gallup, New Mexico. Born and raised there, 4th generation. Born and raised in Gallup. Have 3 children there. Also, all 3 returned home, which is great to see. And then that's something I do believe in is building a culture to where you are keeping our youth home if they go off to school, coming back. I spent 32 years in education, from special education teacher. Well, I should back up. My undergrad is in business, management, finance, and real estate. But my love of kids pulled me out of business after 3-4 years, and I went into education. Got my master's in teaching special education through an alternative licensure. Show my age, back then we were called substandard licensure. So I was a substandard teacher until I got my master's. Taught special education, been a special education coordinator dealing with law, principal, and then superintendent. Superintendent for a very large school district, about 13,000 students, 1,200 employees. Did that for 4 years until I retired. Retired for 3 months, found out at age 50, you're way too young to retire. I got bored. Went back for 8 years, leading a federal grant school on the Navajo Reservation. I interviewed as principal, thinking I can step back, be in the classrooms with the teachers, and found out what they call a principal is everything. Transportation, dorm, food, business, personnel. I was everything. So learned that the hard way. Left there, I went into city government. I've been the city manager of Gallup for the last year. Found some very strong ties between the two, which I hope can show here. I selected housing of the 3 choices, and I'm calling it housing and beyond, because to me, housing is the backbone. Without housing, you don't grow in future industry, the economic development, which was a choice. And then tourism, your essential workers for tourism have to have a place to live, to be attracted to the area to work. So to me, the tourism and the economic development are also all tied to housing. So I'm calling this housing and beyond. It's the backbone. Housing is the backbone of all 3. probably is my weakest of the three, but we're going to stretch here because I did feel it was the most important for the current. So the vital role of housing in Page, again, I've touched on such of it. You're not going to have economic growth, industry development without the potential for housing. Of course, if you're not keeping your essential workers here for the tourism industry, if you're not just looking at standard growth, people coming in, education, hospital workers, just the basic essential workers that you have. If there's not housing, it's very hard to attract them. So I think housing takes a very, very vital role in growth. Okay. So my first thoughts when I started considering it and doing a little research here, my first 3 months on the job would really be looking at getting with all groups. I do not believe in silos. I've worked in education areas where you've come in and departments were siloed and almost working against each other. City of Gallup was very siloed to the point of tearing up a street after they had asphalted it 3 months before to put in new water lines. That's siloed to where, you know, you're losing money, you're wasting time, and then the public just kind of, I don't know how many phone calls the counselors get on such like that, and we try to avoid that. So do the first 3 month study and working with community development department, our other departments, utilities. What is the future needs for industry? Who are we trying to attract? Who's potential to come in? What do they need? Not just for the infrastructure, how much water, how much electricity, but more important, what is going to be their workforce? What is their average pay? Do we have the housing for them? Okay. Hopefully if we're attracting industry, we're not looking at affordable housing. We're looking at the workforce and the full market value on up. So, but again, we need to plan on what is our needs. Do we have a plan to work with developers and such to be able to meet that need? So I'd like to do a 5-year study, working. In Gallup, we are lucky to have the Greater Gallup Economic Development. It's a private corporation that we work with who partners with us to attract industry, so they already have these studies. So if we can partner with other groups already in Page or in Arizona to help with those, give us the statistics and data, will be a step forward. So again, partnerships is very strong. I already touched on a little bit on general growth. What is our general growth? If we're trying to keep our children here after they graduate and return, what housing are they going to need? Same thing. Are we going to be attracting medical teachers? If the town is starting to grow because of industry, schools are going to probably grow. Our police force, our fire department would probably grow. Do we have the housing available for them? So I'm just calling this general growth because just as a town naturally matures and grows, it works. Within that also, looking at we are a border town. What is the available land for that general growth? Gallup is very stymied by that because we are surrounded by the Navajo Nation, trust land and or true allotted land. And then about 90% of the private land is held by maybe 4 individuals. So it's very tough to grow within that. So again, studying here, where is the available land? What does the city of Page already own? What can be acquired? Which developers can we work with? Which owners can we work with? And again, developing those partnerships, which is very vital. And then looking at our seasonal workforce. It'd be great to not have a seasonal workforce if we can develop tourism year-round and have them go from water sports in the summer, late fall, early fall, I should say, into other types of industries that we can build to attract people year-round. Again, that would be more the economic development, but using our cultural resources, using other types of resources to bring in. Let's bring in some of the people who live in the snowbird states, who like to bike, who like to hike. And they can do that in their current places in the summer, but once you start getting into the snow, it's kind of tough to ride bikes in 4, 5, 6 inches of snow or more. So let's start attracting them in the wintertime to do this. Retirees, different things like that. So it'd be nice to see our seasonal workforce turn into a year-long workforce. But if we have a seasonal workforce again, how do we plan for that? When do we need? How many do we need? And then what do we do with them when they're vacant? Unfortunately, in this new time and age, the new different drugs and such coming out there, we're starting to see more transients. Transients are attracted to vacant places. So if we have seasonal workforce where houses are empty, unfortunately, transients will start being attracted to that. So, first step, I think that can be started right away is education. Find a lot of youth and a lot of first-time homeowners are oblivious to what it takes to get their first mortgage. They're not saving. They don't know, oh, I need a large down payment or a full down payment. Credit score? What do I need to qualify for a home? So I think it's very important to start right away with education. Partnering with the schools to teach a financial literacy within the school math programs to where the students are learning that. But we already have students out of school. They've graduated. They still don't know that. So working with our first-time homeowners or just people interested through our library, through our community development programs, different programs like that to hold little seminars to teach. What does it take? How can you save? How do you budget? How do you budget to put some money in the bank to earn? You're not just going to save money for a month and buy a house. It's going to be over time. How do you improve that credit score? How do you do some counseling? How do you pay off bills? Again, partner with external agencies. Some of the credit bureaus have some very good programs to meet with the people to teach them how to raise their credit score and what to do. So then they can start qualifying for first-time homeowner programs, which I can talk about here a little bit in the future. But more importantly, they're a little bit more savvy. They're prepared. They don't just one day wake up saying, I want to buy a house, and then reality hits. So start teaching them at a young age, and then catch those of us older folks who never thought of that. Available programs for housing development. Okay, I thought I was going to sweep in. There are a lot of programs out there. Unfortunately, federal really focuses on affordable, where you have 80% of the average state income, some up to 100%. But again, you're looking at affordable, subsidized housing. I think there's a lot of programs for that, so I'm not going to really delve deep into that because they're easy to pursue through the state and the federal government. It's the trickier portion when we hit that workforce development. Those people making 120% of the average income and above. And of course, not there where they can afford the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 house mortgage. We're looking at the workforce development. Those that are entry-level jobs, our students returning right out of college or wanting to graduate and go right into the workforce. What are the housing for them? These are the programs that are harder to find. Doing a little bit of research, Arizona Department of Housing does have some, which getting with them and pursuing is always valuable, to where the first-time homeowners, if they're making 120% of the average median income, which in Arizona, that's about $106,000 for a family of four. So if we can find someone with that, they qualify for a down payment assistance, up to $20,000 in down payment, and reduced interest rates. So that's one program. But within that, still going to the state. We got creative and went to the governor. She had a housing initiative. She was looking at affordable housing, and we pitched to her workforce. Gallup just annexed 5,000 acres to build an industrial park. And we're saying those average workers coming in are not going to qualify for affordable housing. We need the workforce. So we need a new step. She granted us $2 million to start, and we built homes with those. Then turn around and using the income assistance and down payment assistance such, sold those houses to build more. And at Gallup, we didn't want to be in the housing market. We didn't want to be landlords. We didn't want to be real, but at the same time, we can, on our land, we have plenty of land within that from the state grants in the past. We can build those homes, sell them, and build more. We didn't physically build them. We actually hired contractors. We shopped out, looked at very options, which I'll talk about here in the future. Looked at options to make it affordable, to the standard stick builds anymore with price of lumber. I remember working in a lumber yard growing up in college. Price of lumber was a lot cheaper than building with steel. Now it's cheaper to build with steel than lumber. But even then, our costs have doubled for a house, the square footage, the price per square foot. So we worked with other groups, and I'll go into those. Some local development initiatives. We can look at deferred costs for some incentives for developers to come in, defer some costs until they're starting to sell the homes, so they're not paying for the curb, gutter, sidewalk, water line, sewer line up front. They can get that in with a deferred cost, pay for it after they start selling the homes. Just a method to attract the developers. Work with them on other projects, reduce taxes, property tax, in many different programs that the council can consider to look at bringing in developers. As I did drive through the area this morning, last night, drove through, it was dark, I didn't see the signs, but I did see many signs for acres for sale, which there are plenty of developable land, it looks like. So plenty of developable land, but again, in this market, we're finding, in New Mexico at least, have a lot of developers wanting to do commercial. You start talking to them about residential, and they're like, the dollar's not there. No. And we have very few that are willing to. It's usually that new upstart contractor who's willing to start tackling to make a name. But those are getting fewer and harder to come by. So if we wanted to build commercial, new industry at the park, we'd have 10, 20 bids. We talk about housing, we're having to reach out and find at least one. It's very difficult. And that's why we're looking at the initiatives. So some options for reducing cost. One is commercial mix for our senior workers. Again, as I talked, we don't really want to have them come in, live here 7, 8 months of the year, go back to wherever home is for 2, 3 months, and then we struggle with that vacant building. So if we can talk to some of the commercial developers as they're building, they have that first floor, wonderful, but think up. It's time that the city principles of development start hitting urban. You can grow density by going up, not out. So if we build 2, 3-story structures, first floor being commercial, you have your second and third floor for potential residential, apartment type, even a condo type where they can slowly purchase over time, even if they're only here the 7, 8 months a year. Nice part there is when those apartments are empty because of the seasonal, the business is still occupied. So it helps with your safety. It helps with the transient attraction. And it lowers the cost, again, because they've already got the same infrastructure there. They're just going up. They're paying for the walls and basic inside building infrastructure versus the development infrastructure to the property. So that's one way to attract cost. Another one with the seasonal workers is communal living. I've seen several programs. I am going to the ICMA, let's get the acronym right, ICMA, the International City Manager Association Conference starting next week, and I'm signed up for every housing initiative they have. One of them I'm really seeing is the communal in areas that are seasonal workers, Florida and a few others. It's actually branching out and growing now to, when you look at the industry, they have a lot coming in now, medical field communal, to where when you're trying to attract new nurses, having a communal living there, to where it's almost like the modern dorm type, has like a 4-bedroom where everybody has their individual bedroom, bathroom, but then it has a communal area for the kitchen living area. And again, if you attract it based on the industry, attracting nurses living together, it helps with the carpooling, the transportation issues, safety issues. Seasonal workers, same thing. You can build them closer to their location to where they don't need the vehicles. And it's also a way for them to be saving money to be working into getting into that first-time home buyers. So this is really just a start. It's kind of a transitional, but it's a very way to reduce costs for them, and it's a way to have good-looking, aesthetic buildings for those type of rentals. So just working with developers to look at this versus I'm going to build a 4-bedroom condo or a duplex, those type of things. And then senior housing. Again, the weather here is beautiful. I guarantee you boast probably the most days of sunshine in most places per year. And start attracting, why do we need snowbirds that go from Michigan to Tucson? Tell them, Paige, we're in between. Live here year round. Here's a new destination. So if you started some senior housing, even if it's communal to start, or senior living dedicated area, 55 plus homes, those type of things. Hate to say that because I do qualify now. It was always a joke when I was younger. But a senior living to where it helps with their medical assistant. If a developer comes in, they can have rooms for different groups to lease out for checking on the people. Sad to say, in Gallup, we're looking at something like this for our detox, to where we have a transition from a detox center to life. I do believe in the umbrella approach. You can't just say detox is it or jail is it. It's a full counseling, housing, workforce. And by going to a communal, we can have a place for the parole officer. We can have a place for the peer group counselor. We can have a place for the workforce development. We can have a bus stop there for public transportation. So Gallup, we're not looking at the senior because we still get very cold, but at the same time we have a high alcohol and it's moving towards fentanyl problem, to where here's a possible solution, just feeding them once a week, or offering them counseling, or getting them into detox that's not mandatory. We see not working. It's just a cycle. Or they get detox 60 days, beautiful, and they go back onto the street and start the cycle again because they don't have the housing. They don't have the workforce. So I think this would be a nicer setting for Paige. I haven't looked into the transient issue and such, but again, it's a nationwide problem now. And if it's not here, it's not if it gets here, it's when it gets here is the issue. The other one is land use standards. Again, initiatives. Look at our zoning standards. Gallup is currently has a committee made up of contractors, subcontractors, developers, real estate, retail, and then citizens who've been selected. They're restudying the zoning regulations. For some reason, Gallup got out of zoning should be for your health and safety. Well, they got more into, I don't like carports, so we're not going to have them. I don't like this, so we're not going to do this. I don't like tall fences in a front yard, so we're going to do away with them. We're going back and looking. We have trouble attracting developers into Gallup because of the high number of regulations that are required. We look at most land standard books, 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thick, and then here comes Gallup's at 1.5 inches, 2 inch. And you just look at it, you know there's a lot of bureaucracy there. So again, using the appropriate partners, I think it's community development, so it should be by the community, not just by your planning and zoning department. It should be led by them, of course. They know the law. That has to be up front. The land standards there. Your fire department would be very important in there because of the fire standards. NFPA is a big factor in buildings construction. Looking at the zoning regulations, are we hampering ourselves? That would be the question. Do we need to, I don't want to say loosen to where we don't have curbs, gutters, sidewalks? No, because that affects safety. But at the same time, if you're building a new industrial park, do you really need sidewalks? How much pedestrians do you have at an industrial park? You've got large diesels driving across it in the driveway every day. Is it gonna hold up? So is it better just for a bar ditch with a walking bike path with the road? Because it's not a residential. Now, of course, if you have a school half a mile down the road that kids are walking to, it's now a safety issue. So looking at them as a case-by-case basis. Again, incentives for developers from delayed costs, as I said, deferred costs, tax breaks, tax incentives, getting into property tax, etc. And then incentives. If you will build up, instead of just the one-story commercial, if you'll put some apartments or something on top, an incentive for them to consider that. Okay? They might not have been coming in with the plan for that. It is going to cost them a little bit more to redesign, but at the same time, if we're soliciting and attracting people with some incentives, well, there's already groups out there doing this, and if we can attract some of them to come in, would be wonderful. And then again, community engagement. People have to live here. They need to say so in all this too. I am very open about and being transparent and giving people voice on these committees. Again, it's very easy for the Planning and Zoning Department to say this is what's required by law, but at the same time, what is the community looking for? What are their expectations as we expand? Parks, hiking trails, biking trails, stuff that they want to see. Where can they fit within our infrastructure? And if you don't have them talking to you, we don't really know what they want. Very happy to say Gallup has the high desert biking and hiking trails now, and some world premiere events now coming in to bike and hike our trails, from the high desert trails to our trails in the Cibola National Forest. They've hosted several national events now, the 24-hour bike race. Very fascinating. I get to attend it every year, but I'm more of a volunteer fireman, so I will sit there and watch the bikes ride for 24 hours. And if they break down, help haul them out, or if we have a medical emergency, deal with that. My heart goes out to them. They're very impressive watching somebody ride a bike for 24 hours, even if they're on a team of 3 or 4 people switching off for 24 hours. Now, they had about 12 people. A guy from Germany flew for 24 hours. I was amazed. So again, housing is interconnected to economic development and tourism. I know those are the 3 areas. I decided to focus on housing because I do feel strongly that it is the backbone. So just to summarize, partnerships with the community, partnerships with developers, partnerships with other agencies for attracting business, getting data to apply for grants, both at the state and federal level, working those 2, transparency, letting people know why we're doing. I think change is tough for a lot of people, and that's why it's very important to tell them why we're doing up front, so they can look at that, showing them the data going forward, and then breaking down all silos. If they're, if 90% of the departments are working together already, communicating effectively, well, we still have 10% to go. So breaking down those silos. So as we start talking housing, we are talking water, sewer, electric, infrastructure, streets. And as I came in, my background is business, management, finance, and real estate. Of course, I've got a strong background now in education. I'd let them know. I don't build lift stations for sewer. I didn't know what a lift station was. Very well versed in it now. Clarifiers. I don't know water lines. I am a volunteer fireman, so I've been through the academy, so I know a small basis of what our firemen and EMT do. Does that make me an expert? No, I'm a volunteer. We do half the vital calls that they do. I'm not an officer. They're our professionals. It's my job to come in and provide support. That's where I was as a coach and a teacher, and then a superintendent, where I was very happy to say for the 4 years I was superintendent in Gallup, we doubled the state average of test scores. And we felt that it was through strong leadership at the schools, here would be at the departments, strong leadership, and then support. We all work towards a common goal with common visions and missions, but it's my job to supply the support so they have the resources and needs to, or the resources to meet their needs. You can set all the goals you want, but without the resources and support, you'll never reach them. So that's my job. I'm not an expert in any of those fields, but at the same time, through proper leadership, it's my job to get them the resources, whether it through state money, federal money, coming to council asking, getting departments to work together. They have what you need. How can we help out? And working through there. So with that, I planned on about 30 minutes, and then questions. Be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Augie.
Yeah, just talking to you, I'm impressed with the, as your last comments in first responder services and stuff like that, in reading your resume before and stuff, but impressed with that, and the fact that you know you've been there, done that type of thing, and so that's good. And also the fact that we were talking just briefly that you bought yourself a balloon, and
Yes,
not
sir.
just a little one on the stick, but a big balloon, and so learning how to pilot and that type of thing. But you said, like your instructor told you, you need to learn how to do it first before you do it, and that's what you're going out to the different regattas and stuff like that and learning. So that's I like that, and the fact that that you're not coming in with well, I've got the answers, this is how you're going to do this, type of thing. It's you have the ideas, but you've also been involved with the housing, the development and stuff like that, and so you have the pretty good total breadth of background, something we're looking for.
Thank you, sir.
Any others at this time? We are all very new at this ourselves. I think this is the first process any of us have been through for hiring a city manager. Is that correct?
Right.
Or city manager, but,
Huh?
or city manager.
Or city manager.
Not hiring others.
Not for other hiring issues, but anyways. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And if there, oh yes, Councillor Augie?
Do you have any questions of us?
I've been very fortunate to, Nicole has been in touch with me, and I think all my questions have already steered to her, as close to last Friday, having several questions. So I think just getting to drive around your fabulous town, I brought my youngest, who is not young anymore. She's turning 21 in November. She rode up with me, so we're gonna drive around and visit, and I might have more questions at the interview process as I get to see more, because as I said, last time I was to Page was to Pell 10, 15 years ago, and I hate to say it, we drove through Page to hit the boat. We launched the boat and went up the lake. So I probably have more questions here later on, but at this time, I think Nicole's done a great job answering questions, and I do have to give your community development, your IT department some kudos. If I had questions, I can just get online, and you guys have a fabulous webpage, and the data there that answered 90% of my questions just through self-research. So I have to give credit to your departments and your current systems.
Great, thank you. Any others? Okay, well then I guess
You want to just recess?
we can just recess. I will put this meeting into recess until just before 10 o'clock then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
very much.
You have a tour with
was interesting
the
because the stuff
agenda.
I was writing down over here when he spoke. She met with me.
I read it.
Recess.
Okay, I will bring us out of recess for this City Council special meeting. The time is 10 o'clock and we are ready for our second presentation from Yvonne Kimball.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I don't have,
No, we can hear you because of the one in front of you.
oh, okay, great, thank you. Well, good morning, Mayor and Council and staff. I am extremely excited to be here to present you with my 6 months plan. I titled my plan as Uniting People, Pride, and Potential, because that's how I feel about this community at this moment of time. And I can be that connector and the catalyst to help you realize your vision. So first, let me introduce myself. I am a seasoned city manager with 17 years of experience leading small cities across the nation. You all have my resumes there, so I don't want to belabor the point of my accomplishment in each cities, and that's something that throughout the day you'll have time to talk about. And I just wanted to say that I feel very fortunate to have such a deep, significant city manager experience behind me, and my background has always been council, manager, form of government, and I'm also grateful for this nationwide network has been supporting me throughout my career and to this date. And I have built many areas of talents, and we that's all in the resume. But what is not in my resume is the picture of my family. Here you can see that's my husband, I, and our three sons, and my family has supported me wholeheartedly, and I'm proud of them. And I also wanted to talk to you about my hobby. I had sent some of the things of myself and some literature about myself, but I enjoyed outdoors. I like to cook, and I volunteer a lot in my spare time. I have a newfound hobby now is to rescue wildlife. And I talk about that because it has really given me a new perspective of life and resilience. I do not have a picture of the animals that I rescued, but I do have a picture of Marbury, my last city. And I want to talk about that because it shares a lot of historic context, similar history, similarity in tourism economy with Page. So I want to highlight that a bit. Marbury is a coastal city in California, and you can see it's a very beautiful community, just like Page. And it, just like Page, has a deep heritage and tribal history. It was a fishing village, and then became used for military training during the wartime. And after war, a power plant came and created a lot of jobs and generated energy for the region. When the power plant had to close, the community had to embrace that change. That sounds familiar with Page, right? And now the future use of this retired plant also it's an emotional thing for the community. And during my time there, I managed the budget, $63 million budget, and I have employees of 117 full-time plus seasonal, and I also have 10 direct reports. It's full-service city, has police, fire, harbor, and all these other things, planning, zoning, and finance, and engineer, IT, so on and so forth, HR, and all that. When the time I'm in Marbury, I had this working on a few very high-profile energy projects, including a $900 million battery storage project, and a $9 billion offshore wind farm, which offshore. So in addition to that, the city had a $160 million wastewater/recycled water infrastructure project that I was involved with during my time. And then other key issues for the community would be the strategic use of real estate property, including city-owned land. And I'll have short-term rental slash housing slash homeless issue altogether. And of course, economic development in the context of a tourist-driven economy. You have a million visitors visiting you, and it was a small town, so the impact and how do you balance that? And so that's my last city. Enough about Marbury. I'm here. I want to move on to Paige, and I'm going to bring my 17 years of experience and my national network and my whole self to Paige. And I find your value mirrors my own. I also very much attracted by Paige's natural beauty, but mostly it's the people, the leadership, and its unlimited potential. As I said earlier, Paige is at a pivotal moment where people, potential, and pride can come together in a way that enhance the quality of life for the people, for the wonderful people who live here, but also sustain cities' economic vitality for generations to come. This has been my passion and my life of my last 17 years. And I wanted to be here, to genuinely want to be here, to help you just to do this work. And together with council and staff, I believe we can make history together. Any questions here before I move on to my plan? Okay, move on.
I don't
Okay.
think so.
Now, let's talk about how to get there. I have presented you with my one-pager, 6-month plan, which I'm sure you have a copy in front of you. And my plan is organized in three divisions: Paige listens, Paige connects, and Paige forward. In phase 1, the listening phase, I will really going to rely on you and staff because I'm new here. I need you to introduce me to a lot of people so that I can understand. I seek to understand. I want to listen carefully, and I want to understand the priorities, the various visions. And then I wanted to assess the organization and to see there's room for improvement. And I can tell you, I've been doing this for a while, and everywhere I go, I usually be able to see something. For example, on the permitting end, almost all my cities, they have some permitting bottleneck, or how do you describe that? But it's just something you need to improve. I don't know, maybe Paige doesn't have that, and then that's great. If everything moves so smoothly, then we can move on other things. And then I also wanted to instill a citywide concept about financial monitoring. And I think that's just some good habits. I think the city is doing great. But I think little things, the habits, you're citywide, it's not just finance department, it's going to be, I'm going to empower the departments, the chiefs, the department directors, everybody. That's everybody's thing. Everybody need to do this and financial, and then we'll do some routine monitoring. So we establish a good system, a good habit, and that can go a long way on the budget end. And also some key things the council members been talking about, the PIO position. where is it at, and then we can take care of that, and also the swimming pool. I really want to get hold of swimming pool. That seems a passion that like all of you are talking about. So that's something that phase one we can just get a baseline going on these things. Of course, some other deliverables I have put out there. I really need to be visible, and I want to be visible, and this is. That's why I say I need you all to help me, to introduce me to people, and I hope you're up to it. And then I want to have a whole team day internally, and externally, of course, I want to have some roundtable discussions with stakeholders. So here, now, do you have any questions so far? Okay, so for my page connects piece, on there I have already listened. Now I wanted to connect. I wanted to be able to respond, and I wanted to clarify where we are, clarify some of the priorities, and then I wanted to through the clarification process, I wanted to instill this culture to our department. It's already there. I just want to enforce that. The customer service and efficiency. Is there somewhere that we can be more efficient? I think your department is going to know that, and then we just need to bring it out and then talk about it. And I want to empower all the departments to help me with this. I want to design a citizens academy, and so that's to talk about how city government work, each department. So everybody need to be part of that, and then that's at that phase we can make a plan and then get a plan together as a team. And then, of course, some of the deliverables to communicate. I want to do a city manager newsletter, which I've been doing in my prior positions. And that's not just about events, it's about city projects to tell where we are on this. And so that's the communication in and out. And very importantly, City Council, we need to have a strategic planning session. I know each of you have already have your individual priorities, but how for the city council manager form of government is going to be difficult if all of you are just on your individual platform. We all need to be together. Collaborative is a collective goal, and then the city manager can use that and go on and to work with staff to get things happen. So it's very important that we do that. And that the second second phase, and then that also kind of set the groundwork for later when we do the annual budget. And so at the second place is about the time. I think it's about time we want to give the city council a mid-year budget report and where is the progress on the CIPs and so on and so forth. So that's just all come together at the same time. And then that's a pretty big, pretty heavy 2 months. And then moving on to that's just naturally lead to the budget preparation. I already laid the groundwork early on with quarterly reporting and quarterly monitoring. So when I start doing the budget, it's not going to be too big a lift because by then, everybody is familiar with each other. And I hope by then, City Council will be very comfortable with me leading forward, and I'll just do that. And then I would need the finance department to better utilize ClearGov, because that's a very good module, very good portal to communicate your financial data to the outside, but we need to utilize it more. And I had that in my last city. We use ClearGov as well. And then also very, very important, we had a strategic plan, and that's a guide to the budget. I wanted a plan, not just put on the shelf. I'm going to give you a one-pager, so you can take it, and I can take it. Wherever you go, you can talk about, this is our goal, this is how we get there. And I wanted this to be connected to the departments and their activities, what they want to do for the next year, because they tie to the budget. That's where priority, that's where you can link your resource and your outcome together. So that's something we want to do. And then hopefully by then, we have some quick win, bottleneck issues. I can, if not fix, but if not able to fix, then at least we could be able to make a plan. Hey, this is a good way we're going to go. So you would have something tangible to hold on to. And a very, very, very important is we work so hard by then. We need to celebrate. So we need to celebrate team success, and then in whatever form we'll do that. And we plan for the new phase forward. So that's a quick overview of my plan. Any questions?
No, I like it. Thank you.
Okay, great. So if no question now, as you see, it's very ambitious. I cannot do it alone. I'm going to rely on the staff members and rely on city council, rely on the community. It's going to be a teamwork. It's definitely going to be teamwork. So let's
I do have one question.
sure.
So I really like this 180-day plan. So have you done this before professionally, or is it something that your experience you're bringing forward to a page, and it'll be the first time you'll have done the 180-day plan, or have you done a similar plan before?
Yeah, it's. Thank you for the question. It's pretty much is my work put together. I have done this, but I may not have one pager to share. And at this time, I put it together. I had as a one pager to share. But the concept is the same. Is you need to listen, you need to gather what's going on, and then you connect, and you respond, and you do things. You want to have some deliverables for everybody to feel proud of, and so that's just a crystallized summary of my last 17 years of work. All right, so let me move on. As you see, my 6 months plan is kind of there's wrap around some of the key things that very relevant to the city. Your wish list, the PIOs, the pools, and so on and so forth, and also the finance, because I know the finance is a very important piece for the city. So I wrap that in, and also have some the communication, the inward and outward, that kind of communication, and I want to make sure I touch upon. So that's more overarching presentation. And here we were given this 3 priorities, 3 challenges that page face, and I would say a lot of community have the same issue: the affordable housing, the sustainable tourism, and economic diversification. I choose to talk about them together because they are intertwined by the end of the day. And I also, because I also happen to have experience with all 3. So I thought, okay, let's just bring it forward, and then we can see which one will work best for here. With that, so I use my three-phase thing into this presentation, into the 3 issues. In the listening page, first, I really just need to try, listen to people, do my roundtable. I want to hear about what people had to say about the housing, about economic development, about about the three issues. And I myself have some observations, but I don't want to be presumptuous. I wanted to listen first to see where everybody feel about that. And some questions, key questions I want to ask would be, what are the gaps and disconnect in housing, tourism, and economic diversification, and how do they support each other in your view, right? And how do they work together? And I like to share my experience with you, and then different states, they do different things. But for example, in the housing arena, there are policies and to fast track accessory dwelling units and density development. I'm not sure. Those are something that city council policymakers, you have to you have to be comfortable with and where we are. And I know some of the things are required by state and you have to do, but we can talk about. Those are the tools that you can use. And then short-term rental could be another an issue related to housing, and if that is considered being somewhat hindering the affordability of available housing, but that's something we can discuss. And then on economic development, and my experience has always been just promoting local. I have not had the experience to bring a Costco or something like that to a city, but I have been always focusing on retention and then helping the small local businesses to do better, to thrive. And we can do programs such as facade grant or shopping gift card program, especially during construction when the businesses were interrupted, and if the city can offer a little bit incentive to help the business go through the difficult time. But we can talk about that if that's something that is a fit here. And then you can have some other very local driven programs, and in Marbury, in collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce, the city has this sip and stroll. Basically, you go stop each shop, and then you mingle, and then you try to snack, and they may offer some wine, and then you walk to the next one, and then you shop. You just have a local flavor. And if here wine isn't a thing, we can do maybe something like candy or just food. You can sample from each restaurant to the other. So they're just small things, but you can bring the community together. And the tourism end, Marbury has its tourism business district. And then these days, the tourism marketing can be very, very data-driven. And the DMO is a destination marketing organization, and you can have somebody to give you the data for their key performance index. For example, those data can show you who is spending money, where they're spending money, and how they spend money, and when they spend money. So with all these very data-driven data points, you can make effective strategy. How you want to market yourself, or where, right? Or one is your peak, one is your valley, and you can compensate. So you have more data-driven strategy for what you want to do. So we can see if Paige is doing that, or if not, then we can deliberate. So any questions here? Okay. So moving on. And, yes, moving on is that I do want to highlight one thing, the general plan. And when I was doing my research, Paige's general plan actually earned a honorable mention from Arizona, from the state planning association. So is something that you wanted to celebrate. This is a good thing. General plan give you a platform, a system for the city to track your progress on economic development and housing, especially in housing. They have different elements. Housing is part of the general plan, and then if we can do a regular report on where are we on the general plan, then you will be able to see your own progress, and that's a very good system to communicate what you have done and what you have done well. And then moving on to this page is kind of put everything together, use the collaboration, the partnership, because the things we just talked about, none of those Paige can do alone. Those are regional. These are, you really need a lot of partners to help you to do this together. And fortunately, there are partners out there. NACOG being one of the partners. I don't know how city collaborating with them, but they really have programs. They have housing programs, money for housing programs, transportation, and then economic development, workforce development. When I was in Dewey Humboldt, I worked with them on workforce development. And I work with we have simple back then, but a metropolitan organization, which here in Coconino County is under NACOG, and I work with the Transportation Regional Planning Agency on transportation related, like stoplight, roundabouts, so on and so forth. So these people, they actually have money. You need to work with them, and to see how to leverage the money that they have, and also Paige, you're on loan here. You are on power and water, and that's it's an entity that city have some control over, and also it's an entity where the city can use to promote sustainability if that's city council's desire. Because these days, when you talk about economic diversification, the company, they're going to ask you, well, what's your goal on the sustainability? Are you good? Are you a steward of sustainability? And if that's actually attract variety of businesses. And so if that's the appetite, you can do start with some pilot policy. Then you can then we can implement some conservation programs, water conservation, just little things. I'm not. So those are, but you will put a page forward on some of the things that reflect the community's desire and help you to diversify the whole economy. And then where am I? I'm just really excited. And I also want to highlight one of the local partner is Local First Arizona. Interestingly, when I was preparing for my presentation, I reached out. They're in Phoenix, so I just called. I just said, well, I was thinking about coming to Page, and if I were to, if the city was interested in doing some sort of like a support local business program, how can you help? And the man there, he called, I left the message, and then the man called back right away, and he said, oh yeah, I am so glad that somebody from Page called me. I said, no, I'm not, but anyhow, and he just said that, well, I loved the city. I wanted there, and then I want to go back, and then I haven't been connected, so it's just so much we can do together. I just want to share that with council, that your reputation is out there, and people really loved here. People wanted to help, and I just do this as a random call, and they're saying, hey, connect me, and so I just, that's make me excited about coming here, because there's so much potential to support you. So on this side of the slides, I have some tools that I kind of touch upon some of them, and really from policy level is back to city council. You have to make those decisions. Your zoning codes, your design standards. Those fast track housing, if that's what you want. So that's something you can look into if that's the goal you want to go. And then some other things, that ADU, the accessory dwelling unit, has been a subject about promoting affordable housing, the density. Some other things, and short-term, yeah, I talk about that, short-term rental. And then also we if economic development has been a desire, perhaps we should consider having adopt a plan of some sort, so that you can be systematic going forward, right? So then the plan can be there. They can outlive any of us, and you have a way to measure your success as well. So those are things that are more longer term. I don't think you can finish that in 6 months, but just something I want to bring out there for your consideration. And you have the slides, and you can use it at your convenience. And at the program level is more on a staff. Once the city council have the policy set up, so the city manager is in charge with those program, like the data, the program, how to give you the data, and the one-stop shop on the permitting, or those things, the process to get them streamlined, and then to do these things, and also perhaps expand the tag trash program. These little things the city has already done, they're really good for community pride. I have done something similar in Dewey Humboldt called Clean Up Day, and the city done it twice a year, collaborate with a trash hauler, and the community just love it. You bring the things, unwanted bulky item, get rid of them, make your town look better. And everybody come together. And it's also a good time for everybody, for myself too, to connect with our citizens. I can hear them. Hey, what would you like this? You like this? What would you like? Or at that time they really just want to thank us. That's if you want to hear good things, you go to these events. Don't thank you. So those are some things that I put this together, and then also we can really utilize some of the university intern for some of the things. And I want to share that one of my network, my city manager friends retired, and what she's doing is working with ASU on a future generation of city management fellows. And I am certain that she'll be happy to send an intern so then to help with some of the things that we wanted to do. So moving on, I just wanted to say that I should talk about that already. This subject of affordable housing, tourism, and diversification will never end. So that's just like, you have a baseline, you have to really work on it, but never ends. I also a big believer of communication progress. So everywhere I make a point, in the end of something, I wanted to be intentional about communicating your progress and your future plan out and in. And I also want to utilize our wonderful staff, because they can be a powerful messenger for what the city council wanted to accomplish. And they're out there all the time. You need to be on board, so you can train them to be the best they can and give the tools they can use to help you to deliver the customer service, to deliver the services that citizens deserve. So those, I wrap them into here. Okay. I think this is going to be my last slide. So then we go onward. And I thank you for your time. So now it's
Councilor Augie.
Yeah, just one comment. You mentioned the trash thing on the previous slide. This will be our 45th year of Page Tax Trash, tentatively scheduled for April 18th. I'm on the planning committee and have been for like 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But and it originally started with Salt River Project, and then they turned it over to City of Page. And we actually had Iron Eyes Cody here 2 different times, so pretty neat.
amazing, right? Yeah. Right. Thank you. And that's indeed that's the community. That's the people, right? The people. You have wonderful people here, and the partnership. That's the potential, and that's SRP is a very good partner. I know they are. Yeah, they're community centered.
And we usually do about 450 to 500 meals each year, and so through donations.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, senior, and right. That's wonderful. And thank you for sharing that.
I just have a quick question. You mentioned bulky items on your
Yeah, right.
cleanup thing. Was this a plan to go around and get rid of people's big stuff that's just been sitting in their yard for 20 years? That kind of bulky items?
Well, we did that in doing humble folks who will bring their bulky items. Yeah, could be they're in the backyard for 20 years and hopefully not, but then they just want to get rid of it and then they'll bring in. And with that being said, I also talking about the meals remind me back then we actually spent our program on collaborate with nonprofit volunteers to help with, because some folks are not able to do with the bulky things, and so we can help them to load ahead of time and help them deliver to the site to get rid of the items.
Sounds like a good one. Councilor Augie?
Yeah, just one other comment. Our last League of Arizona Cities, this August, I was talking to the mayor of Dewey Humboldt.
Oh, yes.
And so he mentioned that the water aquifer, and I don't know if you still had that, you had that problem back then, but he's talking about with the aquifer up in Paulden and Ash Fork area, that type of thing. I know that I used to have a house down in Chino Valley, and I had to
Okay.
drop my well down another 100
Yes.
feet because Prescott was taking all the water, as they say.
The
But
growth.
I don't know if you had that same problem when you were the city manager there.
Not, well, that was 10 years ago, not as much, but we were proactive though. I actually was appointed by the governor at that time to serve on the groundwater user advisory committee. And we were talking about that kind of issue just because the growth, the Presque Valley and Nebraska, they're growing and they need the water. So we were talking about how to inject wastewater back to the aquifer, so then to make it have more water going in. And then also there's some other things it was talking about, but as you know, water people fight for. Whiskey is to drink for, but water is to fight for. So that's that. And the policy, I would just say that I'm very aware of the issue with water. And then I'm glad to hear that Doing Home is making some effort towards being sustainable on the water end.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. I'm glad that you were able to present to us, and
Of course, thank you for your time.
once again, I will recess this meeting until 11 o'clock. Okay, I will bring our special city council meeting out of recess again. The time is 11 o'clock for our third presentation. Frank Marbury?
Perfect.
Did I say it right? Okay. Just so you know, as I mentioned to our initial person, the presentation, we can have back and forth with the council on questions. They've been instructed to have it kind of minimum according to your presentation, since we will be meeting with you later today.
Okay.
Private. Okay?
Sure. Thank you. Take it away.
Time is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, Mayor Kidman, Vice Mayor Farrow, members of council. My name is Frank Marbury, and I'm here to tell you how developing a 180-day plan is like riding a bike. So with any journey, it begins with a purpose. The purpose of this presentation is finding a solution for, you can call it workforce housing, attainable housing, affordable housing, or even as my daughter, she's in her graduate studies right now, calls it the missing middle housing. So being successful as a city manager, it means setting a steady pace, understanding the terrain, and aligning the team for the journey ahead. If I'm chosen, it's my goal to bring a team together, focus on the goals, and achieve council's objectives on time and on budget. So what's the 180 days going to look like? I divided it up into 4 phases. So the first month, that's the whirlwind. That's when we'll meet each other, I'll meet the team, and identify the challenges. The second month, we'll develop a strategy and set goals. The third month, that's when the work begins and when you hope to find some quick and early wins. The fourth phase, that's the long phase, takes 3 months. That's the hard work. We need to make sure we monitor and adjust and keep moving during that phase. So hopefully with each phase, we'll build some endurance, develop that teamwork, and gather momentum as we go. So at 180 days, the goal we should have is to be able to report to council on a strong path forward for improving housing issues within Page. So what are some priorities that we look at? Well, you want to look at the infrastructure, the course conditions. What's the current housing situation like? Where are the gaps in the housing, and why are they there? I know from previous meetings we've talked about, or council's talked about, some of the needs, and so we'd want to examine those needs. You want to check your gear. You want to examine the staff and the areas of expertise you have here. Are there some gaps you have there, and do you need outside consultants or somebody to come in and help you? And then fiscal responsibility budgets. There's always budgets. So even a plan like this, we need to develop a budget and stay within those constraints. Some other issues. What about the forecast? What's the weather going to be like? Well, in this case, it's what's the housing market going to be like? You need to check things out. Are there any developments coming through planning that could assist with what we're looking for? Look for opportunities. Are there any businesses? I know in the news there's been talk of data center and some other things. Is there opportunities there to build on that for some additional housing opportunities? Look for other partners. Riding together. Not only looking to staff, but look to the community. Look for the chamber, the builders associations, those other community resources. They've been here, well, I haven't been here yet, so a lot longer than me, probably a lot longer than everybody else, and they know the ideas and have resources, and probably even have some suggestions of what might work. And last, you want to check out your competition. I always say, as an engineer, you work off old plans. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. You just want to make that wheel roll faster. So you try and build on successes that you've seen in other communities. What have other places done that might work here? and build on that, and maybe tweak that and improve that. So, first 30 days. First of all, I'm going to tell you, I hope to cheat a little bit and get a head start. You don't have to start on your first day. I would probably like to at least start making phone calls, getting to know council, getting to know key staff, even before we start. Start researching the city, learn about the culture of the city and the staff, and try and make it so when we come in, it's not this new thing that's going to take a while to get going. So then when the first 30 days officially starts, I'll come in. Of course, we'll meet with staff, meet with council, and also meet with community leaders, other peer groups. I know the utility board is sort of a peer group in this city, a little bit different than some cities, but it works. And I've worked in those situations in other places too. So kind of look above at council, in the middle at peer organizations, and then not really below, because they're smarter than me, the staff, just as authority level goes. But so as far as staff goes, I want to try and find the strengths and where that staff can take us, and even look for those hidden talents, because sometimes you can find talents in staff. Maybe they're in a department that they've worked in other departments before, and they may have some talents you don't know about. So getting to know the staff and their strengths is key there. And as far as turning over staff, I don't think that's always a good idea, because every place I've worked, the staff has worked primarily because they have a duty to serve. It's a service to work for a municipality. So I think everyone's here for the same purposes, even council, because I know city councils don't pay anything, so it's got to be a commitment to serve. Staff is the same way, so I trust that you guys have a good staff here. So the second month, once we get to know each other, then we dive into the research. Teams should be on board by now. Hopefully they're ready to go, if I've done my job right. Then we look into the housing. Growing up, housing's always been an issue, as far as I can tell. Back when my parents bought houses, it was maybe 2 to 3 times their annual income to buy a house. Nowadays, you're looking at 5 or 6 or more times your annual income. That's where a big problem is. I mean, we had the crash in 08, led for prices going up and interest rates, and then the COVID lived through that with all of the price increases. I had a time I had to get an emergency purchase order just to buy some pipe because they couldn't hold the price more than 2 days. So need to figure out where that is and understand the market. So, and then we need to try and define the target. What sort of housing do we want to focus on? Is it the workforce housing, those police recruits and those fire recruits we're trying to get in here? Is it the seasonal workers that are having trouble finding a house? Is it the permanent residents that are getting priced out of the market with vacation homes and things like you see in Page? Where is that target, and how can we define the project to get to something we can work on and not just be all over the place? So this is where we set up a strategic plan. We want to define some goals, try and get measurable objectives, and set a schedule. I'm an engineer, so this is kind of like home to me. We want to have milestones and deadlines, but we need to be flexible. That schedule is going to change, but keep that guide, and that way we can keep on the path and keep moving forward. So what's some strategies for housing we can look at? I think the general plan addresses some of these and is a good start, and there's places you can look elsewhere. One thing in my experience we've looked at before is guest homes as accessory dwelling units. Is it feasible? Do you have some large lots in town where it might be good to encourage people to build that guest home and rent it out to a seasonal worker or someone that can't afford a home? Some things you may know. Recently, I think the state, good or bad, they took away some of the taxes for the long-term rentals. So maybe that's an incentive for people to maybe rent more long-term than short-term in some areas. If you're worried about it becoming more transitory, maybe some zoning rules can make it to where the owner occupies one of the buildings and you don't wind up with 2 rentals instead of 1. Look at options. So another thing to look at, multifamily. Can you convert some single families to duplexes? Where are those opportunities? Could you even maybe look at revitalizing some areas and put multifamily buildings where there used to be single family? You've got to consider some things, traffic, utilities, that sort of thing, maybe more on the edges of these properties. But look at that and see what would work and maybe where it won't. So again, don't reinvent the wheel. Still some other possibilities. Grants. I've noticed over the past, especially 2 to 3 years, going after grants has been a big way for municipalities to get revenue. Even with the change of administrations, it still seems to be the thing, trying to get those grants. So CDBG grants are one way to look at it, or other grants. Could you revitalize some of those older homes or rehab them, get them to where maybe folks can afford to get into a new home or occupy those? Mixed use. I know Page has a high tourism count here, way higher than anywhere, really. So mixed uses, those business and entertainment districts. Could you have the businesses on the bottom floor and maybe have housing on the upper floors for the workers? That they wouldn't have to drive, may not have a car here if they're seasonal. Could save on traffic, may save a little money if you're building up instead of out. Look at those options. Again, partnerships. I think there was an issue years ago with looking at housing with the college. Could you bring that back if it's not happened yet? Also, like the data center, if they're bringing in a bunch of jobs and it comes to fruition, going to need housing. Is there a time to maybe capitalize on that with economies of scale and increase the housing as well? So once you go through that, the 3rd month, that's where the training begins. You should have your plan. As with any training, when you first get started, there's that honeymoon period. You're excited, you're ready to go, and then you hit that first big hill. Come home sore and tired and ready to quit. That's where talking about those early wins counts. Try and get something to where you can have a little victory. What that'll do is that'll keep everyone motivated. It'll make it to where they don't want to quit and just worry about the day-to-day emergencies, because trust me, there's going to be plenty of those that can distract you. So try and look for some of those early quick wins to start building that momentum and building that strength. This is the phase where you build that endurance and strength. Okay. Now the last 3 months, days 91 through 80, that's the grind. This is where the hard work begins. So everyone should be hitting their stride by now, but we're going to need to buckle down and do the work. The way to keep this going, at least my style, I like to do regular check-ins, even if it's little small 10, 15-minute meetings. Just check in, prepare those little progress reports. That way everyone stays accountable, including myself, to make sure to do that task you're supposed to do, so you don't put it off when there's a huge water break down the street or an accident or fire. You keep those tasks moving. So you also need to prepare for setbacks. So you can plan for emergencies, and you can develop even generic strategies of what to do. Everyone gets injured, but if you have a rehab plan and a team put together, you can get through that and recover quickly. It always helps to keep a list of resources and contacts that you can use to get through some hard times. Having those friends in those state and federal agencies always helps. So metrics and performance tracking. How do you track that? As I said, setting goals and keeping schedules is a key. As an engineer, hope everyone's not worried that I'm going to be super rigid and want a whole bunch of Gantt charts and a lot of details. Doesn't have to be that detailed. Like I said, just quick check-ins and progress meetings and celebrating those small wins help. And even celebrating small wins, it could be as little as at a city council meeting, just a quick report of, hey, we got this done, the team did great, super proud of them, we're moving on. I like to let the team know when they do good work. And luckily, in my career, it's been nice and have been able to do that a lot, because I know it motivates me when everyone tells me a good job. One benefit of that too, it also makes those hard conversations a little easier, because when you have to make those adjustments, have those critical conversations, if you've had the good ones, it helps the bad ones come a little easier, and they can take the criticism, and I can take it too. So how do we get to that finish line? Well, we follow the plan. As I said, the first month, that's a whirlwind, get to know each other, start setting those goals. Second month, we research the solution and develop the plan and come together as a team. We set the schedule and the budget with measurable objectives and milestones. The third month, we begin the work, look for those early wins. The second quarter, that's the hard work. There's no avoiding it. The only way to build muscle is to work hard. So you've got to get that work in. But if you stay focused, keep each other on track, and keep working towards that goal, you can do it. So at the end of the 180 days, we should be able to present to council a well-developed plan that's concrete, has some partners brought in, and can work forward to the solutions of finding that missing middle. So one thing, just to let you know how this works, recently, I did it in my own life. I developed a team, consisted of a doctor, a couple health coaches, some friends and family members, and I set my goal to ride my first gravel bike race. That's why the bike theme. So I trained hard, found some good gear, even recovered from a pulled hamstring. That was fun. And finished ahead of my goal times. And if I seem a little stiff and anxious today, it's because that ride was 2 days ago. So I pulled off 60 miles for my first bike race ever. Pretty proud of it. And I think we can put a plan together and work for Paige just like we did for a bike race. So thank you so much. Any questions? Happy to take slings and arrows and whatever you got for me.
Any comments or questions for Mark? Frank. I said Mark. Debbie, our Councilor Roundtree.
So your 180-day plan, so have you actually implemented a 180-day plan before?
No, because it's part of my learning process that I've gone through. And over my career, that's what we found with our projects. I've done the plans with projects, and it was a learning experience to adapt that to management. So that's what I plan to move forward as I grow in my career as a manager, is put that down and take that tracking experience I put through with capital projects and apply that here, and it should work. Like I said, it doesn't have to be the rigid with the Gantt charts and the negative float for projects, but the same principles can apply to tasks like this.
Councilor Hedinger.
Hopefully this isn't too much of a leading question. I love how you talked about meeting with your team regularly and then reporting to City Council at the end of the 180 days. What about reporting to City Council during the process? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. That goes into the quick check-ins and the early wins. I plan to meet with council regularly, individually and in public meetings as council. So those check-ins are important, because if it's going off track as far as council goes, you guys set the policy. You tell us as staff where that ship is going. It's our job to tell you when it's going to get there and if there's rocks in the way and how to get there. But we need to make sure to check in to know that we're still going the right direction. So those check-ins are key. And And I'm a person that likes a lot of feedback, so I'm probably going to request that feedback as we go. So yeah, there'll be communications back and forth and some updates as agendas allow.
Okay. Any others? Like I said, it was the small interaction and questions at this point. It's not that we're not interested, we just have more questions for later on, so. Nothing? Councilor Augie?
Yeah, just real quick. Mentioned on the projects and stuff like that. Our Page Utility Enterprises is, which is our water, sewer, and power, is a kind of an autonomous
Right.
operation. Although the general manager in charge of it is our acting city manager. So in Chino, you work directly with the different entities and stuff there, and some were under your direction and stuff like that. How do you feel you can interact with our setup and Page versus what you're, I guess, kind of used to?
Right, that's where the team aspect comes into it. And where I'm at now, I run the water and sewer and streets part of it. The power is APS and the gas is Unisource. So you have a combination of that where some of it's under my direct control, some of it's partnership with outside agencies. Other places I've worked, Denver Water was a 6-county water authority, set up similar to the authority here with that same governing structure that's almost a separate body from council. So I've worked with that. That's where building those relationships and those partnerships come in. Coming from a background of project management, you don't have that authoritative control over your contractors and your consultants, but you still have to get them to do what you need them to do. So trying to build those relationships, work as a team, have that mutual respect, that's where that comes in, and you can help each other out. From what I've learned about the utility director, he's been here a while and knows his stuff, so I would probably lean on him pretty heavy for advice. Maybe I can help in a few places, but definitely don't want to tell him how to do his job. But there could be a good partnership there, I think, and that's what you look for, even with ADOT and other agencies. You try and develop that partnership.
Thank you. Any others? Oh, Councilor Preller.
Get the obvious question out of the way. How'd you do? What was your goal time? How much did you beat it by?
Thank you. I hope it wasn't too bad. I know you're a cyclist, so I figured maybe I could get at least one vote, but no, it just so happens I haven't biked in years, so that was part of the health journey. But I set a goal for under 5 hours, and I hit 4:35. So
Solid.
Right, and I realized this is the first time I ever dealt with drafting in a bike race. So those groups you ride in, that's another aspect of teamwork. It makes a difference, and you can ride faster, but you got to make sure to take your turn up front doing the pulling. So if everybody does that, it kind of pulls everybody forward. So even learning lessons out on the dusty gravel roads.
On a more business-focused question, who do you currently report to? Is that a city manager, or are you reporting to a council?
Correct. I think I am the only candidate that's not at a management level right now. I'm a department head, and in Chino Valley we don't have any assistant directors or deputy managers. I run 7 divisions and report directly to the town manager. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time if I interchange town and city. I've been working in a town for 8 years, so I can get back to city after that. So, but no, I run all of the operations for Chino Valley and report directly to the manager, and she reports to council. We've got 3 appointeds in that lineup. It's the town manager, the attorney is a consultant, and the judge is also appointed, and fire is a district. So we've got police under the management, but fire, CAFMA is a multi-jurisdictional district.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Well, we thank you for presenting. We will be talking with you later on today in our face-to-face interviews. So,
Thank you so much. I just appreciate the opportunity to get to meet you guys and to be here. So thank you so much.
all right.
Thank you.
So with that, I will go ahead and put the meeting back into recess until
Look at that.
As soon as we restart our system. We're good? You're good. Okay. I will bring this special city council meeting out of recess. Time is 12 o'clock noon, and we have a presentation from, let me get the name correct, Kelcey Young. Reminder to counselors to put your microphone on if you do have a question for Ms. Young. And I will tell you the same thing that I did before the others. The council will not have as much engagement with you, but they will have some questions, a question and answer with you. But a lot of our questions will be in the meeting that we have with you later, face to face. So if it feels like there's not a lot of questions now, don't feel bad about that.
Okay.
Okay? Anyways, I'll turn the time over to you.
Okay, great. Well, good afternoon, Mayor and council members and community members. I'm Kelcey Young, and I feel extremely honored and blessed to get to be here today to meet with you all. As I was mentioning earlier, I have known Paige for quite some time. I have family that's not too far from here, and just it's one of those areas that I think is absolutely beautiful. So I feel extremely fortunate to get to be here regardless of what happens, and just to get to spend some time with you all. All right, let's see if I can figure this out. Okay, so about me. I am a public servant. I have been a public servant for pretty much my entire career. I think it's a tremendous honor to be able to serve the community and be there for the community and to get to make people's lives better. And I feel extremely fortunate to get to do that. A little bit about me, as well as I have two amazing sons. They are both entering high school, and I am looking for a community to stay and love and become a part of for the foreseeable future. Please excuse the horrible photo of me, but it was the only way I could capture all three of us doing that. We would love to kayak, paddleboard, and then you can see us roasting marshmallows, and that's, for us, what we consider to be a good time. So, one of the things I wanted to share is I have had Paige on my list of top 5 places to retire for quite some time. And so there's me with my little mood board of my retirement 20 some odd years from now. Hopefully I still have that much blonde hair. Otherwise, I've looked at some of the other spots, but when this position came up, to be able to potentially be here now was one of those opportunities I just couldn't pass up. So, my experience. So right now I'm the city manager of Pinole, California. It's in the Bay Area of California, It's a beautiful area. Pinole itself is about 20,000 people. It's sandwiched between a whole bunch of other cities, and we are sort of the central shopping area for the area. So we have over 50,000 people that is considered to be a shopping area. That estimate is probably an underestimate in that we have a lot of people who are continuously coming in and out. So I'm familiar with the challenges of being sort of a destination city. Not quite to the extent that Paige is, but still I'm used to the dynamics and what that does to your infrastructure and to shopping and the sort of dynamics between residents and visitors as well. Before that, I was the city manager of Sweet Home, Oregon, and we had a population of about 10,000, and we were shifting from a economic area of logging towards more tourism-based and building that up. Had a beautiful 2 lakes and a river that literally goes right through town. So beautiful area, and with a lot of the potential challenges that can come with starting to build a tourism-based community. So I have a fairly strong, well-rounded background. Most of my background is in finance, and so I have a strong background in finance, but also in economic development and housing projects, as well as public works infrastructure. I have a lot of experience in grant writing and routinely bring in and manage multiple millions of dollars in grant funds annually. And then I do have some experience working with tribal agencies. In Pinole, we have the Ohlone, and then I also have some other ties in some of my previous cities as well. And then originally, a lot of my career was in Texas, in San Antonio and in Dallas, Texas. And there I was doing a lot of larger projects. So a lot of development projects, bond projects, and you can't really be in Texas without getting involved in emergency management. So I ended up doing a fair amount of leading through emergency management, which is one of the reasons I ended up going into city management later. So I've led cities through tornadoes, hurricanes, winter storms, fires, some pretty severe fires that I can talk about at some point, and so forth. I also am a Lean Six Sigma black belt, which means I really enjoy writing processes and improving processes and looking for efficiencies and other areas that we can reduce errors, reduce costs, and move forward, as well as a Scrum Master and a change agent. Now, caveat with the change agent, I don't believe in just doing change for change's sake, but if there are going to be transitions, I have background in guiding people through that transition in as supportive of a way as possible. Oh, that's hard to read. Okay, so additional skills. I have a lot of experience resolving deficits. Most of my cities that I have come into, there are deficits. We have been behind in audits, not in Pinole, but previously, and so forth. Another thing that I really enjoy doing is facilitating retreats and workshops for councils and executive team members as ways of developing alignment and also being able to really clearly define the strategic goals and direction that we want to move forward. Part of my role as city manager, I think, is to help facilitate council and the community on determining the strategies that they want to move forward, and then after their direction has been defined, going ahead and carrying that out. Okay, so my leadership style. I'm extremely collaborative. I think it's really important to have conversations with the community, with the council, with the executive team members, and hear all the voices and really listen. I think part of being a good leader is listening, and so that's really important to me to do. I also think it's really important to build alignment. I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but like Paige, for example, there's tremendous opportunity here. And so it's not really about discussing what can be done, it's more about discussing what do you want to do and determining that in a collaborative manner together in alignment so that everybody's moving forward and rowing in the same direction. I think it's also important to build community engagement. I know that there's been some challenges here in Page in building that engagement and everybody feeling like their voices are being heard. That's true everywhere right now. It's something that's really common throughout most communities, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. There's ways that we can do it in gentle, supportive, collaborative ways and have those discussions. I also always have open office hours. Typically, I pick certain period of time that I hold open, that people are just welcome to come and ask me questions, have conversations with me, and so forth. I'm also typically try to be available by appointment, but it's nice sometimes to just have those open office hours. It can be less intimidating than having to make an appointment, and people just know that I'm available at that point. I also like to have town halls and listening sessions. Things along the lines of, I would probably start with a meet the city manager, town hall, and then go from there depending on the type of engagement we're looking for. So, first 180 days. So the first 180 days really sets the tone for success, and it gives the opportunity for everybody to get to know each other and hopefully get started on the right foot. I have learned throughout my career that it is really important to listen during the beginning of those first 180 days. There's going to be a lot of people in the room that know a lot more than I do. And making sure to hear about that, understand the history, understand some of the challenges and so forth is really important. Paige has, as I already mentioned, incredible opportunities. There's a ton of strengths here. I mean, the natural amenities are absolutely unbelievable, as we all know. And then there's a lot of community pride and commitment. I've been wandering around both yesterday and today and going to different businesses and going over to the chamber and just chatting with people and just asking them, why do you like Paige? And the answers have been pretty similar. They've been things along the lines of, it's a small town, people are really nice, people know each other, there's a lot to do if you're adventurous, and it's just been really nice to hear that. And then, as I mentioned too, there are some incredible opportunities that we'll get to in a little bit. It's also a great location. Yes, it's remote, but that's one of the things that's appealing, I think, right now too. And I've noticed, I went hiking yesterday in a couple different places and it was packed. And I know that in comparison to high season, it was not packed, but there were still a lot of people there. And one of the things that I noticed was most people, English was not their first language. We have a lot of international visitors here. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and you can tell people come to the Grand Canyon, they come to Paige, then they go on to Bryce and Zion's. So figuring out also how to target and have people stay that little bit longer is one of the opportunities that I think is available. All right, so first 30 days. What do I do once I start here? So very first thing would be to get to know the team and the council. So that first 30 days, I would spend a lot of time visiting every department, have a one-on-one with every department head, have a one-on-one meeting with every council member, start setting up recurring council meetings based around your schedule, dive into the budget and really thoroughly understand it. As I mentioned, my background's in finance. I love budgets. So when I first started in Sweet Home, I lived with the budget next to me. It was on the bedside table, I carried it around, just figuring out exactly, because there we had a deficit, exactly what our next steps were going to be, where the issues potentially were, and start strategizing for the future. And then analyze the current financial situation and opportunities, including current grants. I know that there's a $5 million grant here that needs a match as well. And so taking a look at all of that and making sure that we're ready to move forward. So the goal was really to get to know the team, all of the team, council and staff, and ask honest questions, listen and learn. Next 30 days. So at that point, I always say when you first move in, you put your house in order. The second thing you do is you go and meet all the neighbors. So go everywhere. I will hopefully have had time to do some of this already, but after that first 30 days is when to really, really dive in and start visiting all of the businesses, have a city manager meet and greet town hall, meet with business owners, tribal leaders, school board, community groups, and make sure, if I haven't already, that I have set up office hours and communicated that out into the community so that people know that I'm available and can come and they can ask their questions. So next 60 days or so would be understanding staff priorities, council priorities, and community priorities. Then trying to work on alignment between all of those priorities as much as possible. It seems to me that there's a lot of strategic plan and short-term alignment that's already in place here in Paige. It seems to me that some of the larger questions are more about where are we going from here. So starting to have those conversations and getting ready to start prioritizing that. Another piece that I think is always really important, if we can, is decide collaboratively on a short-term priority that we can accomplish right away. It's not going to be something like build 300 new housing units. That's going to take a little bit more time, but it could be deciding what type of housing units we want to go after. It could be striping, it could be setting up a winter event, all sorts of various things. And that's really great for the community as well, to see that we are going to do what we say and that we can accomplish it within the time that we say we can. All right, so then finally, for the final, however many days that is, 69 days, we would be looking at going ahead and delivering those pieces that we had already talked about. So one of the things that I have found to be very effective is having a leadership group where various agencies get together. In Sweet Home, we called it SHARE. And we would meet on a monthly basis, and it would be chamber, school board, fire district, certain key businesses, certain key realtors, and we would meet. We would just go around and talk about what was happening, make sure everybody was aware of different initiatives, and then pick various initiatives that we wanted to have move forward and how we were going to do that together. The other piece is I like to create dashboards, so it's very easy for the community to see exactly where we are, what we're accomplishing. If there is some sort of holdup or additional hurdle, what that is, and being very transparent about that. And then finally, start working on developing a long-term strategic identity plan. And I'll talk more about that in a second. Oops, wrong button. Okay, so as I mentioned, I like to be really collaborative. As I'm going through those 180 days, I'm going to be focusing again on transparency, on listening, on alignment, making sure that we're in a strong financial position, making sure to analyze the financial strength, as well as staff morale. Anytime there's a transition, even if it's a positive transition, it can be challenging on staff. So working with staff on morale and making sure that everybody understands what's going on and that we're working in alignment as much as possible will help with that. Again, with staff, they are the subject matter experts. They are the ones who are really going to be able to provide so much expertise and insight. So getting to understand the strengths, the potential challenges, those staff members that maybe need some more professional development versus those staff members who are rocking and rolling and ready to lead and help mentor other staff members as well. Another piece that's really important is talking about establishing norms and collaboratively developing deal breakers as with both the council and with the staff. One of the things that often happens is whenever there's a transition, there's a lot of assumptions that are made on both sides. This is how the previous city manager did it, this is how the previous council did it. So often there's the thought that this is how it will naturally go about. I had a dear friend whose husband was a pastor who, when they started a new church, the congregation was mad at him. He had no idea as to why. It turned out the previous pastor had been leaf blowing the walkway before church every Sunday. He wasn't doing that. He had no idea that this was an expectation. All he knew is he was failing because he wasn't doing something. Once he understood what that was, it was a really easy transition to make and really easy to build that trust back up. So trying to make sure that we align our expectations on both sides so that we all can move together in the same direction is pretty critical to do really early on so that misunderstandings aren't created. Okay, so one of the things that has been asked about is looking at some potential strategic strategies and concerns I know that Paige is looking at. One of the first things that I think would need to happen, even with in the first 180 days, is just starting to have the conversations of what do we want? What does council want? What does the community want? There are so many options. So setting really clear goals on what those options are and working backwards, I've found to be the most successful. So, for example, do you want a population growth? If so, what are you looking at? Are you looking at 10%? Are you looking at 50%? Are you looking at 300%? Because whatever type of direction we're going is going to change our strategy. Same with, are you not wanting to grow? Do you want to keep it the same size, but just work on strengthening the business opportunities that are already here? Then, if you do want to target population growth, what does that look like? Are you looking for targeting families and bringing in additional families, retirees? Do you want manufacturing? Are you looking for tech? What type of opportunity are you looking for? Again, Page is one of those potential international destinations that, with the right marketing, can bring in just about anything you want. So trying to decide what that is going to be really critical, and then that starts determining what direction we go first. Biggest challenges, it's remote, which again can also be a plus. There is a housing challenge, I will say. Seems like there's some housing that's coming up. Seems like a lot of it's over in Greenhaven. Seems like there's still some opportunity there. And so looking at, again, the type of housing that you build is also going to help shape the type of people who move here. So that's another thing to discuss. The other piece is there's almost too many opportunities. So that becomes a question of where do we start and what do we focus on. So let's start with the housing shortage. I'd recommend starting a task force to talk about housing, again, to identify the type of housing that we're looking at moving forward. Can look at the current zoning and city-owned parcels. I was looking already. You have already in place so many wonderful ways to bring in housing. So that should be a relatively easy direction to go. There's funding for housing and potential grant opportunities. And you can decide if you want type of incentives, if you want to have partnerships with attainable housing, if you want to be looking for additional types of housing, and then workforce housing. If you're going to grow, you're going to need to strategize how you want to have your workforce housing being developed at the same time that you're growing. What that looks like is going to be very dependent on the workforce that you're trying to bring in. So some quick wins. You have 17 square miles, from what I was reading on the websites, of potential land that can be developed. You can already market that as shovel ready. There's tremendous opportunity. I mean, people are, so right now I get calls for looking for property where people can develop housing all the time. And yes, this is a slightly remote area, but that's also part of its charm, and we'll get to that in a minute. There's also potential options to look at modular. And modular housing is shifting every day. The technology that is being created for modular housing is actually very exciting. So there's opportunity to build housing quickly that's actually more sustainable and stronger than, and less prone to fire damage than a lot of stick-built housing. One of the options even is considering, if you want a manufacturing center, having that here as well. Not only are you building housing, but you can become the southwest gateway to some of the modular housing. Additionally, you have land, so there's options for master lease units for teachers, healthcare staff, hospital workers, depending on the directions that you want to go. Okay, so when I was out at Horseshoe Bend last night, it's beautiful. It was really cool to watch everybody walking around and, you know, enjoying the whole area. But my favorite part was there was a family that were sitting on the cliffs, and the dad had the 3-year-old and the mom had the baby. And they were talking about an alligator that, you know, non-existent alligator that they could see that was maybe 100 feet. And you could see so much joy on their face. And it really struck me on, right now, all of us are rediscovering life after COVID, after so many shifts. Being able to live in a place like this is such a tremendous gift. I mean, I was watching this family literally share this wonder with their children, and it was beautiful. So this is an area that can be easily promoted to remote workers, to families, to those that want to start living life the way that they've wanted in a place that's truly beautiful, and not have a commute, not have allergies, if you're like me, or many other things. And it's almost a dream landscape for a lot of us who are currently in an area that's congested, that has ongoing traffic, that has ongoing crime, and I know that there's some crime statistics here, but it's a very safe community. And it's the type of place that I think many, many people would absolutely love to be. All the photos I took yesterday, I did not do anything like Councilor Farrow. I saw some of your photos, they're beautiful. But just so you know, it was really fun to be able to just grab those photos and pop them in here that quickly. Okay, so we're running out of time. I didn't have any problem with creating this slideshow as far as like coming up with what to say. My biggest challenge is this morning I was looking at it and realized it was 68 slides of various ideas. So, excuse me, I'm just going to jump through a lot of these.
You actually have plenty of time.
I do?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, then we'll keep going. Okay, so we have the economic diversification. So beyond tourism. So one of your biggest challenges is going to be, as you're moving forward, anything that you do, you're also going to need to be building housing concurrently if you want to grow. But most of that are items that you can do concurrently. Housing typically takes 2 to 3 years. I've been involved in many, many housing projects, everything from smaller couple $1 million deals to larger, huge housing initiatives that are $20-40 million, depending on the size of the cities. Here, I think targeting smaller housing groups, determining exactly what you want Page to continue to look like and strategizing for that is going to be really critical. So here's some ideas for economic diversification going beyond tourism. You have tons of opportunity if you want to hop on the blue and green economy, which would be looking at solar-powered greenhouses, aquaponics, desert farming, all of those various areas. You can do that on a small scale here and have it more be research-based and in partnership with other universities if you want to go on a smaller group. And then you can test it out and build pilots as you want it. As you know, this area is absolutely beautiful. I know it's already been in quite a few films. Another opportunity is having a film and media hub, having areas that people can come, edit their films. It was very successful in San Antonio when we did something along those lines. We found that there was a great deal of need for people to actually have studio space and spaces to actually be in the community while they worked on their films or television shows or other things. There's opportunity. I saw your sports complex here, which is lovely. I think there's opportunity to continue to expand that for outdoor rehab and sports medicine, as well as adventure tourism. I have heard that everything slows down quite a bit in the winter. Working on tourism on those shoulder seasons, working on winter events and so forth, but also just making it a lifestyle choice for a lot of people where they're coming in and getting to be here and rehabilitate. There's other energy and innovation if there's any interest along those lines, possibly even piloting floating solar or solar fields. There's lots of space. So again, it's deciding on who Page wants to be. Do you want to be an AI center? There's tons of grant funding for that right now. So there's options to bring in AI workforces, and it can be remote. Do you want to be a distribution center? Do you want to be a center that focuses on drones and other looking at that particular technology? There's a lot of need for that, and there's the open space here. And then, as I already mentioned, there's the renewable energy options. So the most important part is talking about what is wanted so that can start recruiting, because most people probably aren't going to think of Page initially, but you have a captive international audience that is here all the time. So once you start marketing it on what exactly you want, you're going to be able to reach out to those groups that will actually come in and do that. There's also sticking with what you already have with tourism and allowing that to just grow organically and strengthen that further. So you can market it as the adventure and cultural capital of the Southwest to Europe and Asia. You can have an international visitor hub that has multilingual welcome center, cultural events, and enhanced travel services. You can have student and cultural exchanges, and then premium experiences. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, right now for wellness retreats, spas, things along those lines. And I think there's a lot of options to be able to do that. There's also outdoor recreation hubs. Looking beyond just Lake Powell, like I mentioned, into going into the off seasons and shoulder seasons, maybe an ice rink, maybe a Great Wolf Lodge. This could be an ideal location for something along those lines. There's a little bit of a water concern, but often that water is recycled, so there's still some options that could be looked at. Trying to focus on a more year-round visibility plan. Health, wellness, and education. I'm a little bit of a wellness freak, so this is an area I tend to gravitate, so forgive me. But I noticed you already have some expanded health care. I know that there's some concerns, though, about some potential hospital cuts and some other things. Going ahead and trying to actually bring in additional health care and targeting this area as a wellness center, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think that would take a little bit longer, because you're going to need to be able to show the roofs that are also coming in, as well as the other types of tourism that is already coming in that would facilitate that. But it would be something that could partner really well with expanding your international tourism. Another piece is potentially doing a blue zone project here. There's opportunity for great healthy lifestyle here, and health retreat, a little bit of an allergy oasis. I have tremendous pollen allergies. It is wonderful these past 2 days. There's a lot of vitamin D, there's clean air, and there's opportunity to market red sand, which we'll talk about in a second. Again, there's the remote work and technology hub. And I think this one's pretty self-explanatory, so I won't go into it too much. But there's a lot of opportunity, I think, to also target people who are currently in Sedona and Flagstaff and so forth, who that's become too big, too expensive, too congested. They're looking for that real retreat that is how those areas were 30 years ago. There's other options too. I've noticed you already have some of these of niche businesses like handcrafted items and specialty Southwest foods. I was really hoping that somebody would have some sort of cactus ice cream around here, and you could also have like aloe vera and lime ice cream, you know, and market healthy treats. I love ice cream. It's like one of my guilty pleasures. So there's, I think, a great opportunity for that as well. And then leverage Page's brand. You already have an amazing brand here. So figuring out how to leverage it so that it becomes further, and actually people are purchasing things even when they're not in Page as part of a smaller manufacturing hub. So red sand. So there's a ton of benefits to red sand, which you have plenty of. So it can be used for massages and acne treatments. It's fantastic for sports rehabilitation. And there's a lot of new technologies that are being done with construction, and red sand can be used for building roads, and it reduces the carbon footprint. It creates a pervious concrete, And then it's also can be done for different types of hydroponic growing and things like that that can be done with less water. So potential next steps. Put together clear goals on what Paige wants to be, and then start moving backwards on how to attain that. So who do we want to attract, and what do we want Paige to look like? What does it look like 10 years from now if we can create the ideal Paige, and then work backwards from there? Leverage the city-owned land, as we already talked about. Reaching out for P3s. There's a ton of opportunity for private-public partnerships right now, and a lot of businesses that are looking for new places to go and develop, and they don't know where to go, but they want to be wooed. And if you actually reach out to them and bring them in, there's a lot of businesses that are currently on hold that really are looking for the next thing. Partnerships. Partnerships are going to really matter here, especially as we're trying to determine the direction that we might want to go. So making sure to have those conversations immediately and really be collaborative and listen to everybody's voices with tribal governments, the National Park Service, state and federal agencies. I am known to just show up at the capitals. I bring cookies. I've developed some pretty good partnerships there. And it's important because then as those grants and other funding comes forward, that can be leveraged in order to really attain that even when we might seem like the underdog. And then of course our residents and civic groups, because we do this all for our residents. So success metrics, trying to make sure that as we're going through this, we're as transparent as possible and sharing exactly what that's going to look like. So working on resident engagement participation, making sure that we're having the town halls and engagement meetings and the discussions, but they actually mean something. Having community engagement just for engagement's sake can become really wearing because you can start feeling like as a community member, maybe your voice isn't being heard because you already gave all these ideas and nothing happened. The other piece is sometimes those meetings can get contentious. After that, why do you want to go back? So making sure that the community engagement is targeted, supported, and actually leads to something. And then sharing that. That's again why I like dashboards and other things, so that we can be very realistic about our timelines and then show our measurable milestones as we're moving forward. Again, being able to show our progress on those areas that we already talked about, on housing, on tourism, on diversification. And then also internally, I like to have engagement surveys and staff morale surveys really early on and then throughout. I'm always surprised when I'm at a city when often it'll turn out that we didn't have all hands meetings, or we hadn't been having quarterly meetings, or we hadn't had those typical ways of working together and milestones, and making sure that those are all in place and they're consistent and everybody knows what to expect. And again, we're all rowing in the same direction. Okay, so again, opportunities here are pretty much endless. That's going to be one of your biggest challenges, is deciding what you want to do and focusing on that. So first things would be connecting and engaging with the community and the team, deciding as a collaborative group what direction everyone wants to move forward, and then making it happen together. So thank you. Any questions for me?
Thank you. That was the last slide?
That was the last slide.
Okay.
See, the sun is going down.
Councillor Hedinger and then Councillor Roundtree.
I really loved your approach to this presentation of bringing a lot of ideas without saying, and this is exactly what we have to do. I just love kind of how you already are approaching that relationship of how a city manager and council can work together. So my question is, I love the idea of retreats. In my experience, sometimes everyone gets really aligned at the retreat, but then you come back to your day-to-day implementation and suddenly everyone's back to doing exactly what they were doing before. So have you experienced that, and how do you help make sure that the momentum continues from retreats?
So that's a great question. And yes, I mean, there's this exercise that I love doing at part of the retreats. And if I tell you, then if I move forward, I'd have to come up with another exercise. But it does show that what we all tend to do immediately is go right back to what we were doing before. And so I think one of the things that's important is to build it in. So you decide some very clear priorities and tasks that you're going to do over the next little while, and you actually build that in to your next year's worth of work. And so there are those ongoing milestones and reminders as a group. All right, this is where we are with this. This is where we are with that. And then you bring it back to those conversations, and you don't be afraid to say, hey, this happened. We all came into alignment here. Do we want to change that? Or are we comfortable with continuing to move forward with that strategy? But I think intention and acting intentionally is extremely important, because part of what I think you have to do in a retreat is actually decide that this is what is going to shape us for the next year. And otherwise, it's just a lot of pretty ideas without really much substance to it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I really liked a lot of the ideas that you proposed.
Mic-
Since I've been
microphone,
on council,
Debbie.
I have wanted to.
I think you need your mic.
It's not,
It's there.
It's not catching your voice.
Is it catching my voice now?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I'm going to hold it then instead. Years ago, my father was asked by a small town in Oklahoma to sit on a board, a leadership board, and do exactly what some of the ideas that you had is to sit down and decide and go out and then bring people in. And still that little town is just a shining example of what those men did all those years ago and how they went out and reached. And I wanted that for Paige. Instead of us just sitting and waiting for someone to come to us, I wanted to identify what we would like to be and go out and ask those industries to come. So I really liked that. But a question I've asked some of the others was, so the 180-day plan, have you implemented and done a 180-day plan elsewhere in other organizations? And would you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So I have done a 180-day plan in both Pinole and in Sweet Home. Sweet Home, it shifted quite a bit because the priorities that I initially thought were the priorities coming in and, you know, I'm going to do all of this stuff, realized that wasn't what the community actually needed. So that one shifted. One of my biggest challenges in general in city management is I have a lot of energy and I like to do a lot. So sometimes I can move a little too fast. So often my 180-day plans help me stay a little bit more measured, and also I share them with my team as well so they know what to expect. I've never had any trouble with completing them. Typically I've exceeded them, but trying to make sure that they are realistic and that I don't push a community too fast is also one of those things I have to work on.
Thank you.
thank you. Any others? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much for presenting. We will be meeting with you again later.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much. It was wonderful to meet you all.
And with that, I will recess the meeting again until after our lunch at 2 o'clock.